listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. This is episode 104, where we talk about what you can and what you cannot have shipped to your house when you buy it online. If you've been around the gun world for a while, you'll probably know most of this, but there are a few items that may surprise you. As always, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode 104 of Range Minded, the gun stuff you can and can't have shipped to your home. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long, and as always, I am joined by...
Steve Zimmerman, all the way from the other side of the state.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm doing okay, and yourself?
Not too bad. Just hanging out in the quarantine like everybody else.
Yeah, so awesome. Who doesn't like it?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, though, I'm actually getting a lot of house stuff done. We've had a long list of house projects to do, and actually found the time to be able to get a lot of them done. So,
have you noticed yourself having to go to the hardware store, or you're able to accomplish these tasks without going far?
So before the quarantine, I actually went to the hardware store and loaded up before I needed to go. I've only had to go, I think, once since the quarantine, but it was in and out. Everything else I've done has been a what do you call it? Pickup or crap. It's like curbside pickup.
Curbside, yeah. Well, that's nice. The other day I went to Home Depot on Friday to get some stuff. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
What do you mean?
Well, there was a line outside that was probably, when I was there, it was probably about 50 yards long. Of course, everybody has to be spaced, right? We can't stand too close to each other. But it took
6 feet.
It took forever to get into the store. And then after we had left, inside the store was retarded too. Like, getting help was ridiculous. They've staffed a bunch of new people that clearly are underqualified.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then as we left, I looked over to the entry because they've got it separated, enter and exit now. You can't go.
Yeah, you got to go. You got to pick one.
Yeah, they don't let you go into the exit anymore. And the line was at least twice as long, if not longer. And
to check out?
No, to get into the store.
Oh, sure.
So people are it's like waiting for a new iPhone or something just to go in and get some light bulbs or whatever people are doing. It's ridiculous.
I think the timing is what you've got to watch out for, because last time I went out was Wednesday to the hardware store. It was like a Wednesday morning, I think, and I got right in, got right out.
Did you?
I sure did.
Yeah, not me. So I guess you just got to get up before everybody else does, huh? That's what you're saying. Well,
yeah, exactly. But you can buy things online and either have them curbside pickup or you can have them shipped to your house.
Which is nice, because I would rather have stuff shipped to my house. I was doing that before this whole craziness.
Yeah, same here. Much more convenient. And that's actually the subject of our podcast tonight is buying stuff online and what you can and cannot have shipped to your house.
That's right. And
because
people are getting surprised either way, it sounds like.
Yeah. I was doing some research for this podcast, and my fiance asked me, she goes, what can you get shipped to your house? I go, pretty much most things. She goes, can you get a silencer? No. But that's what we'll cover in this episode.
That's right. There are some things that are federally controlled, but you can get a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, the short version is you can get most everything except for actual firearms shipped to your house. But there are even, I think, a few exceptions to that, depending on what kind of licenses you may or may not have.
That's a fair analysis, yeah.
So why don't we just start with firearms themselves? We're going to go ahead and say that you cannot have firearms shipped to your home. And why is that, Steve?
Well, thanks to the federal gun laws starting in 1930s and then again in the 80s and even some in the 60s, anything that's serialized is considered a firearm. And unless you do have a federal firearms license, we, the common folk, the sovereign citizens of the United States cannot have anything serialized shipped to our house.
Right. And it has to go through somebody with a federal firearms license.
Yeah, and I guess I better not confuse some people, because there'll be people out there, well, what about if I ship my gun under warranty or something? That is a different case, because it is going from your house to, say, Smith & Wesson or whatever, and they take care of it. You can have, or they will ship that firearm right back to your house. It doesn't have to go through a licensed dealer. Otherwise, if you are purchasing a new firearm to which you have to do paperwork, it has to go through a dealer.
Right. And because of that, you have to go, or the reason is you have to fill out a 4473, which is a background check to get that firearm transferred over to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's not so much a background check. It just shows that not a bill of lading. What do they call that? Basically, it's what do they call it? But just saying who's taking possession of the firearm, like creating a paper trail of sorts of a serial number. And that might scare some people. Right now, that information is federally protected. The government can't just say, oh, well, let's follow this serial number all the way through. They can't do that unless it's done in a crime, though there is some rumblings of legislation that might change, which is illegal. But right now,
right,
that 4473 that you filled out to buy your handgun, all the feds know is that you purchased a handgun. They don't know what you bought.
Right. They don't know the specifics of it. But they're according to the laws, you have to have kind of that paper trail and that, record of transfer from FFL to citizen.
Right.
However, the cool thing is, like I said, there are a few exceptions to that. You can, as a citizen, have an FFL, but you need to actually be doing business to have a federal firearms license. You can't just have one to have firearms shipped to your house.
Right. It's not a loophole, which they like to create so many times. There is. It's been a long time since I looked into it. It seems like there is a minimum amount of transfers that you have to do a year to retain that FFL. So, I mean, you have to be doing something with it.
Yeah, you can't just use it as your own personal way to get firearms easy peasy. And I have to imagine the requirements to get an FFL are probably quite stringent and difficult as it is anyway.
It can be uncomfortable. I had a buddy that did it a couple of years ago. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. In fact, I thought about doing it myself. That's when I was looking into it. It was the same time he did his. And
sure.
You do get a visit from the ATF. They come walk through your home or place of business, wherever you're going to be. You do have to have a legitimate, lockable, secure place to store firearms. They'll ask you like how many firearms you plan on keeping, what's your business idea, type of thing. So if I was going to do a huge, if I told them, hey, I'm going to transfer 5,000 guns a year, like just a normal gun safe, they might kind of frown at that. Another thing that's interesting, as a little side note, is they often retract those licenses. Like quite a few a year are retracted from small businesses or small transfer amount of people. They like to retrieve those licenses because it can be a lot of headache for the ATF.
Yeah, because they can kind of revoke them for any reason, right?
Yeah. And a lot of times, maybe somebody passed away or something like that, and so they'll revoke them. But they're also very, and I think we've talked about this before, they're very, they like quality assurance in their paperwork. And so if they consider you a headache, they might find lots of problems with your paperwork. And find reasons to shut you down, just because it's easy for them not to deal with a lot of the small town or small quantity guys.
Well, so there is kind of, I'm not going to call it a loophole, but there is one way, depending on the kind of firearms you have or that you like to collect, you actually can have firearms shipped to your home with certain kind of circumstances.
And that's another thing. You could have what do they call it? A curio and collector's license.
A Curios and Relics FFL 03 license. It's a CNR license.
Yeah.
But there are some kind of rules around that, is that, you're getting, firearms that are manufactured at least 50 years before the current date. They kind of certified that they are of a collector or a curio or relic kind of interest, and that they derive a substantial part of their monetary value from the fact that they are novel, rare, bizarre, because of their association with some historical figure, period, or event. That's actually directly off the ATF's website.
So that's something you could do for investment purposes, or if you have a small museum or something like that.
Yeah, but that's really the only loophole. And apparently I found this is kind of an interesting wrinkle in that rule, at least in Illinois, is that SBRs and sharp-barreled shotguns and those kind of things are not legal in Illinois unless you have a CNR license.
That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of an interesting little wrinkle in the rules there. On the whole, you cannot have a firearm shipped to your house as nice as that would be. And that's the funniest part about, I think, a lot of people getting firearms, like new firearm owners, is that they realize that they can't get a firearm shipped to their home, and they're actually angry about it.
Well, they've heard for so long that, these crazy gun-toting people are getting stuff shipped right to their house with no background check. They buy it right off the internet. If only it were that easy. It's probably actually a good thing that it can't happen that way, because I'd probably have less money in my pocket to spend after that.
Yeah, that's true. Just imagine a gun a week coming.
That'd be awesome.
However, that actually does lead me to my next point, which is you talked about the part that is serialized is the actual quote unquote firearm, according to the ATF. So that does include, frames for handguns like Glocks and stuff. That includes the lower receiver for a lot of firearm or a lot of rifles and shotguns and whatnot. Those little pieces you cannot get shipped to your home. And then in regards to the AR, though, you can actually get, I thought about this a little bit, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can get every other part of the AR-15 platform shipped to your house without a problem or any kind of background check or anything like that, except for the lower receiver. Correct.
That is 100% accurate.
Yeah, I'm happy.
And if you're like me, I tend to invest in precious metals like aluminum often. And so being able to purchase all those other parts is pretty nice.
Yeah, because that's the thing about having a lower receiver, is that if you go to an FFL and you can purchase as many as you want, and you have to fill out a 4473 each and all that, but after that they're yours and they can just sit in a safe, and you can use kind of whatever pieces you want to put something together. Now, big caveat on that is that you have to, have put together something that is in line with the National Firearms Act and all that.
And we have a podcast or an episode where you can jump back and listen to some of the stuff that we talk about. We don't have to get into like those kind of rules right now, but just being said, you can purchase and build almost anything you want as long as you're following the law.
Right. But yeah, everything from the muzzle device to the barrel to the handguards to the upper receiver, even the bolt carrier group, all that kind of stuff, all the way back to the stock or the brace. I mean, you can get that online. You could buy it all from one spot usually.
Yeah. And we should say, as of right now, we can still do that.
As of right now, I hope that does not change.
That could change. There's some of the more liberal states are really worried about that kind of stuff, and they're trying to clamp down on it and make some national laws. But as of right now, we still have some freedom left.
Yeah, well, and one thing I'll say too, going back to firearms, is that you can't have a firearm shipped directly to your home. However, you can buy a firearm online, and I believe we do have an episode on that too as well.
Yeah, I think it was one of our earlier episodes, actually.
Yeah, that might have been a while ago. So, but a quick refresher really is that, you can go online to, like Aim Surplus is one option, or to Independence Indoor Shooting, iishooting.com. Wow. Happy day.
Come on.
And you can actually buy firearms online and then have them shipped to your local FFL, or they can be your local FFL, and then you just go fill out the paperwork and then you're good to go.
Yeah. And there are some fantastic gun shops online. Right as of right now, a lot of the deals aren't happening like they used to, just it's because of demand.
Sure.
But like Bud's Gun Shop has some amazing stuff. We can get some good stuff. It's there's some other ones I can't think of off the top of my head. Even Gun Broker, you can get some okay deals on Gun Broker. Guns America actually has a pretty good catalog of guns for sale too. So
yeah, they're not too bad.
There's a lot of places to go online.
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. And yet you still can buy guns individually or from an individual, not an FFL. I tend to be a little leery unless I know the person, or at least, if my spidey senses aren't going crazy, then I'm not too worried about buying a gun from an individual. But usually almost everything I buy comes from a licensed dealer anyways. Right.
It's just the safe thing to do, really.
Yeah.
Or the prudent thing to do, I guess you could say.
Unless it's a smoking deal. Like I have bought guns from individuals that were hard up for money, that, things come up and there was
life happens.
Money in my pocket and they needed something. So it worked out good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you can buy guns online and have them shipped to your FFL. It just, it might take some more time and you have to fill out some paperwork, and you might have to wait a few days depending on what state you're in.
Yeah. And because of the coronavirus and everything going crazy right now, everything has been pushed back. I think we talked a little bit about it a couple of weeks ago about the background checks, like taking 10 times longer than they normally do.
Yeah.
But quantity of items is really diminished. There's such a high demand for stuff that it's been really difficult. I know ammunition has gone through the roof. And I kind of touched on it on Independence's Facebook page. Somebody was complaining about us price gouging and stuff. But what people need But what people need to understand is when our prices go up, our costs go up, then our prices have to reflect that. It's not that we're trying to gouge, people out of their stuff, but when our distribution, when their stuff goes up, in order for us to resupply, we have to increase our costs. But that's just the way it is. And I know it's awful, but that's
well, yeah, it's simple economics. We're being charged more, so we have to charge more. And you look anywhere online and ammo is more expensive. It doesn't matter whether it's through your local gun shop or online or whatever. It's going to be more expensive than it was, a month or two ago anywhere.
Yeah. That makes me think, and maybe we could even talk about some of those stores that do. I believe there is one particular website that completely price gouges, and they've done it more than once. Like, this isn't the first time they've pillaged the wallets of some of their shoppers.
Capitalized on a controversy and scary times. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and their name is a misnomer. And I'll just straight up say it's cheaper than dirt, and they've done it before. Like, I remember, was it Sandy Hook? I can't remember where.
Yep, it was like 2012, 2013.
When a PMag was $100 on their website.
Yep.
And everybody else they were up in price. Everybody else was like $30 or $40. Come on. That point is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was for one, by the way, which is a tenth of usually what it is now.
Yeah, like there wasn't very long ago I could buy PMags for $12, I think is what they were retail. Yeah. So, and
it just is. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and hopefully stuff calms down, and when we get back to normalcy, then you can go on a buying spree.
Well, I will say that I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of great deals on guns once all this stuff calms down.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. So,
but you brought up cheaper than dirt. I will say a PMag right now is $12.97. That's their low price, by the way. And you can buy a box. Let's see, Full Metal Jacket, 9mm Luger, Fiocchi,
yeah.
Fiocchi for $17.50.
Man, that's painful.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you, when it calms down, start buying more ammo.
Yeah, that's the best time to hoard stuff and to buy ammo is when it's plentiful, not right now.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But hey, at least the PMags are still cheap. So just getting the ammo to fill them might be a little more difficult. So,
and I haven't bought PMags for a while. I usually stick the old tried and true Amend 2s.
Right, that's a great option as well. I need to get me some of those actually.
I love them. So there's a lot of different websites. Like I think I've probably talked about a few. I do spend a lot of time, and a lot of people bag on this website, but I spend a lot of time, and I've spent some money on here too, is Palmetto State Armory. And I know, I know there's a lot of guys, a lot of gun shops, let's put it that way, not just guys or gals, but a lot of gun shops that really don't like Palmetto State Armory because for some reason they get some screaming deals on some guns. Like right now, for example, I am on one of their daily deal pages, and here is an M&P 2.0 9mm. This is their full size, the 4 1/4 for $500.
Wow,
and
that's pretty cheap.
And it's not just anything. It's got looks like it has a knife. Gosh, maybe I'll buy this. Hold on, it's opening ever so slowly. Yeah, so it's got 2 mags, the back straps, a challenge coin, and some super cool little knife that comes with it for $500. That is pretty badass, actually.
Yeah, they do have a lot of good deals. I remember I bought an upper from them. It was like a 10.5-inch AR upper with just standard handguards and everything, but it was like $289.
Wow.
Like all finished handguard or finished upper completely.
Yeah.
Plug and play. It was a screaming deal, but yeah, for some reason, a lot of people don't like Palmetto State Armory. I know they've had some maybe security issues with their credit cards and stuff like that.
Well, there's also been some quality control issues, and I do understand that, and I accept those. I accept the problem when I purchase from them, that there could be some issues, but I'm not scared to fix some stuff either. But there's been a lot of AR-15s built with Palmetto stuff.
Sure. Yeah. And if it's for a budget build and that's what you can afford, I mean, it's not a bad way to go.
I don't think so.
But speaking of ammunition, you can buy ammunition online and have it shipped to you in most states, I believe.
Yes, you can, other than California.
Without any sort of check or anything like that. I remember I bought a bulk ammo in Illinois, and they did require me to send a copy of my firearm owner's identification card, but after that, they just keep it on file, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, and there are some good deals still on ammunition. Good deals, relative speaking. I mean,
if you're buying in bulk, yeah.
There's, I think Brownells, which I've spent some time there too. I think they had a drum of 5.56. Let me pull it up. But it's expensive. But there's like 65,000 rounds or something in it.
Wow.
And I like Brownells for
quite a bit
for parts. That's my preferred place to look for gun parts.
Sure.
But they do sell a bunch of other stuff.
So actually, part of a little firearm tourism, I'm actually happy to say that I've driven past both Palmetto State Armory and Brownells in person.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't have time to stop because I was on a road trip and had to go. But
of course.
Yeah, I drove past Palmetto State Armory in South Carolina, and I've driven past Brownells in Iowa.
Nice. Oh, look, they're completely out of stock of their drums.
Yeah, see, it's tough to get it anywhere, but a couple websites I'd recommend for looking at ammo and prices and all that kind of stuff. One of the places I like is sgammo.com. They carry some pretty good bulk ammunition. You can get right now a 1,000-round case of 147 grain 9mm Luger Spear Lawman for $269.
26 cents around. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And then You want a 500 round case of 9mm Winchester White Box SXT 147 grain hollow point. It's $249 for 500.
Yeah.
For defensive ammo, that's not too bad.
No, it's just a lot.
It is a lot. And then you do save money when you buy in bulk. It's just like Costco.
Right. And that's what's funny is some people think, especially maybe if we have some new gun owners listening, like you might think 1,000 rounds, that's a ton. When you go to some big boy classes, big name classes, they're typically you'll be shooting 600 to 800 rounds in a week in those high speed classes. So that's it's not as much as you think.
Yeah, it goes by pretty quick. That's for sure.
Yeah. In my survey, we found out that most shooters visit the range at least twice a month, and they shoot anywhere between 200 and 500 rounds each visit. So
yeah, which is quite a bit. I will say too, like in my enhanced concealed carry class, because we had the time and not a ton of people in the class, we were able to shoot 450 rounds, and that was just in one class over like 4 hours.
Yeah.
So
it does go really quick.
Sure does. The other place I will say, just to get a look at kind of a average price per round, for today is gunbot.net. It's not the prettiest website in the world, but you can go ahead and look, see what kind of what ammo is going for around the internet, if that makes sense.
Is it just like almost like a search engine type thing? Not really a search engine, I guess, but just a reference that tells you where to find it.
Yeah, it's a reference, and they have links to different ammo around the internet, and it tells you how much price per round, if it's in stock, if it's full metal jacket, steel case, remanufactured, all that kind of stuff. Self-defense ammo, you can kind of tailor it to how you want, and they have all different kinds of calibers and stuff too. So it's just kind of like it links you to different websites based on the price per round and all that kind of stuff.
That is handy. I've never used this before.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. It's like I said, it's not the most intuitive or the prettiest website in the world, but it does do the job, and you can get as much ammo as you want shipped to your house.
Yeah, look at that.
So that is pretty cool.
Good thing I got some stimulus money coming.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can buy ammo, and I mean, rifle ammo, shotgun ammo, handgun ammo, whatever you want, you can get it shipped to your house, no problem. And I will say, it's when you buy in bulk, it's usually cheaper than buying it from the range.
Yeah, normally it is. Yeah,
normally. It depends. Sometimes ranges get a good deal. And or you can scoop, like we have at the shop, and you get a pretty good deal on the scoop of ammunition.
Good old scoop and shoot.
Scoop and shoot, yeah, exactly. Or if maybe you're a new shooter and you don't have a stockpile of ammo, or you're not comfortable getting ammo shipped to your house, there's nothing wrong with that.
Nope, I understand.
So, well, did you have anything? I've kind of driven this episode for a while now. Do you have anything on your list about what you can and can't get shipped to your house that people might not think about?
Well, let's see. When it comes to really buying, somebody's at my house. Sorry, somebody just rang the doorbell. When it comes to really buying things online, obviously we talked about guns, talked about ammo, but even though it's kind of nice to be able to see some of this stuff, I mean, safe gun storage is still important. I know we touched on it the other day about all these new gun owners showing up. You can still buy a lot of these lock and gun cases on these websites. I haven't actually never looked. I'm going to jump on Amazon and see if we could even find some of the stuff on Amazon.
Oh, sure. Because that is a low-key place that you may not think of to make some firearms related purchases, rather.
And they've been slowly pulling things back as this. They've been more and more anti-gun. But let's see here. Gun safe. Come on, internet. Oh yeah, so they got some smaller safes online. Some fingerprint stuff here. So yeah, at least Amazon's still selling this kind of stuff. So don't be scared to find a place to safely put that firearm. The other stuff that gets looked over a lot is cleaning supplies for your gun. If you're going to go out there shooting, we just talked about bulk ammo. Sometimes this bulk ammo is not the cleanest, and it's not something
Right.
you want to leave on your firearm for extended periods of time. So all that cleaning stuff is still available. You can jump on any website, the Brownells, any of those places, and find some quality cleaning stuff if you're not willing to go to the gun store.
Right. And yeah, maybe you're under quarantine still or something, or you just don't want to go out into the world, and definitely a way to get that stuff that you need. Yeah, because you got to keep your firearms clean, and you got to keep them safely stored away from prying eyes and prying hands.
And as the craziness continues, I mean, we just talked a little bit of social unrest. You know, people are getting more uptight and doing stupid things. So you do want to keep your guns and valuables locked up. If you can buy a big safe, I know it's harder to buy a big safe online because then you got to pay shipping for that. But you got to be really thinking about everything altogether.
Yeah, you got to think about the whole picture. For more on that, really, especially if you're a new gun owner, you can check out our last episode where we kind of walked through everything, what you would need as a new firearm owner and what you should be thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually looking up something else real quick on Google, see if they have it. I'll be damned. Look at that. Mantis on Amazon, they have the Mantis X10.
There you go. Yeah, training devices. You can get those shipped to your house, no problem.
That's the other thing is what we're neglecting as firearms owners is if you're not getting out and shooting, which I really haven't had time to actually get outside and shoot at all. So every day we're not pulling that trigger is another day that we're missing out on keeping those skills honed. And we talked about this with Adam, you know, getting some kind of training device. As you can see, Amazon hasn't given up on that stuff yet. So you can buy things online to keep yourself honed in.
Yeah, we talked about that, like I said, or like you said, with Adam about training at home, using different ways to train at home without actually having to go to the range and keep your skills sharp. You can do that and even try out, new accessories and stuff. One thing I was going to say is that, magazines we talked about, but like lights, lasers, optics, accessories for the most part, you can get shipped right to your door and put on your gun at home and try them out. And you have like something like a Mantis and, or some of the gear that Adam was talking about. You can really test drive some of that gear that you buy without actually having to go to the range.
And the other thing, last week we talked about YouTube videos a couple of weeks ago. When did we talk about YouTube? YouTube videos in quarantine. So maybe if you are a new gun owner or you're a little nervous about doing any kind of work on your gun, a lot of this stuff, like especially when we talk about AR parts that you can get delivered to your house, is super simple to put on. No smithing required. If you're building an AR from scratch out of parts completely, and you've never done that before, don't be scared to do it. Jump online and find some good YouTube videos. There's some really good stuff online. So after you buy those gun parts and you got a pile of stuff just sitting there, don't let it sit there forever. You've got time if you're not doing anything else and stuck in your house. Grab one of your kids, use it as a teaching moment, put that gun together, and then go out and do some plinking.
Yeah, exactly. I had I remember one of the things that got me to memorize how a lower parts kit goes into a lower receiver for an AR was the CMMG. The CMMG. It's an animated video putting a lower receiver together with the parts kit. And they do a really good job, I have to say, because if you order a lower parts kit from them, it's in different colored bags because each little section has its own little group of pieces, and they go through and say, okay, grab this piece from this bag. Even the little springs, if you've put an AR together a few times, you can tell by the length of the width of the springs where they go. But if you're brand new and you've got 3, 4, or 5 springs sitting there, you're not really sure what to do.
And I remember my very first AR-15. The FFL that I got it through happened to be a friend of mine, and he asked me, he's like, "Do you know how to pull this thing apart?" No, and he kind of looked at me kind of funny because he knew I've been around guns a lot, and so he took a few minutes and pulled apart that bolt assembly, and I remember thinking to myself, "This is complicated." I'm gonna have
There's a lot going on.
I got to remember how to put these things back together perfectly. But they're not complicated. It is super simple. And if you haven't done it before, I understand the fear because I've been there. But there's so many resources out there, so many more than even I had 10 years ago or whenever I got that gun, that everything's readily available for you.
Yeah, you do have a lot of that information over the internet. And the cool thing is about a YouTube video, I mean, you might not be able to get one-on-one real-world training, but in terms of knowledge about how firearms work and how to put them together and stuff, you can stop and pause and go back and see it over and over and over again. And that's definitely where I think YouTube shines pretty well.
Right. And that's what's so awesome about almost all modern gun platforms is they're not scary, and there's so many things available to make that gun yours. And something else I was just thinking about that I hadn't thought about before is gun coatings, right? So
right.
I know, let's see. You didn't Cerakote anything with this, have you?
Yeah, I have my two slides from my PPS and PPQ are both Cerakoted.
But you didn't do it, right? You didn't have a chance to do it. You just handed it over to Cody.
I did not.
So
right, yeah.
So Cerakoting is kind of a complicated process, but there's other gun coatings out there, Duracoat, and honestly, even rattle can spray paint, like a high temp spray paint, that you can use and have a lot of fun with, and make that gun even more yours. Like, I have an AR that I experimented with some camouflage rattle can spray paint, and it still has the spray paint on it. And it was like 2 or 3 years ago that I sprayed over it, and it's held up. I mean, it's not pretty, it's not perfect, but it's still kind of cool. And and it's mine.
Yeah. It's a cheap way to make it yours. I mean, I have an AR that's rattle can, just like an urban gray, and then all the hardware and stuff is black. And I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. And then you get that cool battle worn look.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really cool way to kind of make it your own, and definitely worth checking out and trying on your own. I mean, you just take your gun apart and just give it a couple sprays in the garage, and you're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's just so many things you could do with it.
Yeah, and if you really wanted to get into it even more, this is kind of on my bucket list, and I probably should at least get on buying some of this stuff before it goes away. But demilled parts kits of old guns. Like if you wanted a Sten gun from back in the day, they sell like basically every part except for their receiver. And, thankfully you can manufacture and construct your own firearms as part of the Second Amendment.
Right.
So what you can do is you can kind of build out the rest of a Sten gun, and then use the pieces that you buy online to make your own Sten gun. And if you really have the tools and the knowledge and stuff to do that, you can do that. Like I said, it's been on my list for a while to do that. I just haven't.
You better jump on it.
Yeah, I haven't pulled the trigger on that one yet, so to speak. But you can own a piece of history, or you have the tools and stuff. Get pretty creative with what you can make. Like you said, if you have the time.
And right now, a lot of people have time. Maybe not so much the money, but they have a lot of time.
Yeah. Speaking of like oddball things, not necessarily oddball things, but things you might not think about that you can't buy, is you cannot get a silencer shipped to your home. If a silencer is legal in your state, you cannot get that shipped to your home, which is, again, unfortunate.
It is unfortunate.
And maybe can you explain why?
All right. So yeah, back in the day, in the 30s with the NFA, the feds made it really difficult for the rest of us. I mean, honestly, it was for tax evasion, to try and get the bad guys for tax evasion, but it really screwed us over in the long run, because now we don't get to have any kind of suppressors without going through a long, drawn out process, which takes a long time, and it's kind of ridiculous. And I
Yeah,
think
and I imagine it takes even longer now.
we did a suppressor buying episode. Did we back in the day?
I think we did, yeah. And we, like you said, we've talked with Joey about it, which was helpful. He knows a few things about suppressors.
Just a couple.
Yeah. So you have to. It's just like a firearm. You have to get it transferred to you, and because of the NFA Act, there's a few extra hoops you got to jump through, or whatever.
And it really is frustrating, but it's not impossible. It's not a terribly daunting task. It's more annoying. It's more annoying than anything else. And especially because you have to do it every time you buy a suppressor.
Yeah. And you're spending an extra $200 as well, every time you buy an NFA item.
Yeah. A lot of people thought, well, I could just, if I buy 2 or 3 suppressors, then I only have to do the tax once. No, it's per item, per serial number. So
yep.
It is kind of frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Be wary though. I've noticed it's popped up a few different times. And I don't know if it's on wish.com or what it is, but somebody's been selling a solvent trap for cleaning. Which oddly, I mean, I don't know why you need baffles in a solvent trap.
I don't know.
But, yeah, be wary. And just so you know, I think the ATF is aware of people when they buy those too. So don't think because, it's $80 on Wish, nobody's going to know. I'm pretty sure the feds know.
Yeah, bad idea. One thing that some people might be surprised to learn that you can buy though is body armor, plate carriers, all that kind of stuff, which is great. And
there are some great websites. Sometimes you pay a premium for the name. Tactical. Can I say the whole word? Tactical. I guess you could beep it out if you wanted to.
Well, you could just bleep yourself.
Tacticalsheet.com. They actually have a pretty fair assortment of body armor, just from regular flat sheets, flat panels, up to actual plates to put in a carrier. And I don't know why. I've never understood why that's such a problem. Like why people think that's so taboo to be able to protect yourself. And I guess criminals can buy it, but there's such a misnomer too with body armor.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things.
So I may or may not have some. I mean, I heard about a guy that had some once. But when I was at SHOT Show not this past year, but the year before, there's some pretty amazing stuff that's coming out for the regular consumer market. Panels that fit in briefcases and backpacks, and you can have suits tailored that have ballistic material in them. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it does have a weird misnomer, like kind of a bad rap, because it seems like it's so tactical or so like expensive, but really, I mean, you never know, I guess, when you might need it.
Well, and I think some people's concern is like, why do we have to live in an age where our kids have to go to school and we have to put body armor in their backpacks? Excuse me. I understand that concern, but there's bad no matter what. Like evil's going to happen. It's just like wearing your seatbelt in the car or having a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. Like there's nothing wrong with being prepared.
Yeah, it's a tool.
So I don't know. I guess I can kind of see their worry about it, but I see nothing wrong with having it.
Yeah, and you can, like I said, you can get it shipped to your home, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the sky's the limit when it comes to body armor. I know there's actually some stuff that comes out of Taiwan. Believe it or not, I would avoid that because their quality control may not be where it needs to be. In fact, Tao Flater Mouse, we talked about his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
he got some Kevlar panels from Taiwan. They're not the safest thing. I don't think I'd ever really use it. So you get what you pay for. If you're looking to get some good quality soft armor or hard plate armor, you're gonna be forking out some money.
Yeah, that's you definitely have to pay for quality stuff when it comes to armor.
Yeah. And on that line of boogaloo stuff, just made me think is you can get night vision shipped to your house.
Yeah, you can get NVGs if you really wanted to.
And then they're cost prohibitive, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But it's still there. It's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a little expensive. In the 4 figures range,
and I'm okay with like that stuff that's super scary or whatever. I'm okay with the market dictating the price on some of this stuff. If you want to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for some night vision goggles, more power to you. If you can afford it, that's great.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's crazy. That's kind of like that's I think that kind of ends my list. The short, like I said at the beginning of the episode, the short list is basically anything that isn't actual firearm itself. You can pretty much get shipped to your house.
Yeah, I think it's important too that you go to find some good, reputable places online. Like we talked about identity theft or credit card fraud. I mean, all that stuff is, I'm sure, on a rise right now with quarantine and everything. So just be mindful about where you're buying. Make sure the website, was it the little star or something on the website to make sure, or the URL to make sure that you're going to the right places, that they're secure. Don't be dumb. Don't try and buy dumb things like a solvent trap off wish.com. Just pay attention.
Right.
And you can still make phone calls to your friends that do a lot of buying online and talk to them, see what they're buying and where they're getting it from. It's okay.
And you can even go to your local gun shop, because there are some, at Independence, we can pretty much get almost anything, but there are some things we may not be able to get, but we may be able to point you in the right direction to get it. And who better to know where to point, where to go than, folks that work at a gun shop.
Yeah. And it takes time. Like right now, like we talked about earlier, it takes time to get some of this stuff now, because it's just kind of ridiculous. But if our distributors have it, then we can get it.
Yep. And so don't be afraid to call or email or ask. We've had Levi on before, and he's talked about, coming in and talking to people and doing what they can to get you something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. So the last thing I'll say too is that if there is something that you're trying to buy online that have shipped to your house that you can't, they will usually, if it's a reputable website, they will put in big red letters, note, this is a registered item which needs to be sent to an FFL. Or
if you have some certain state restrictions, sorry, I can't talk. Like Palmetto, we talked about earlier, they, on each one of their items, they have cannot ship to California. If it's something that's restricted in your state, those, like you say, those websites will have that information available.
Yes, that's a good point.
And if you've bought something online, and maybe we've talked about this before a long time ago too as well. If you bought something serialized online, usually, depending on that online store, they may or may not have your gun shop's FFL. You can have those two companies communicate back and forth with each other. And honestly, as weird as it sounds, is that FFL information is still public information. So you could take a copy just to the number of the FFL, not the whole license, and fax that over to your gun dealer or your online store where you've purchased. But honestly, the way we like to deal with it, and I think most gun shops do, is they just rather prefer to talk to those FFL to FFL. So usually
people make it pretty easy.
There might be another step involved depending on where you bought something from that those two FFLs have to communicate with each other. I guess that was the long way around of me just saying that. I could have just said that again.
Yeah, and you brought up another good point too, is that if you live in a state with magazine restrictions or anything like that, you're not going to be able to get that shipped to you.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to throw in that disclaimer, and maybe we should have done it at the beginning, is that what you buy is all on you. Like if you buy something, then you're able to get it that's restricted in your state. That's up to you. Like we're not responsible for your bad choices, and you should know your state. your state or municipality laws. That's all up to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to you. We're not lawyers or experts in your home state. So, but if you do have any questions, just give us shoot us email, podcast@iishooting.com, or find us on Facebook and Instagram @Range-Minded Podcast, and we'll do our best to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
So cool. Well, that's all we got for this one. So thank you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Yep. Stay safe out there. Wash your hands.
Yeah, wash your hands. Don't touch your face.
That's right.
See ya. Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook, or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.